is Jason J. Rock Houston, and my co-host along for ride, as usual, is Vince Lupo, the drummer from Mick Adams and the Stones, which is a Los Angeles-based Rolling Stones tribute. Welcome once again to Remembering Woodstock, and today we're going to be talking about Sly and the Family Stone. Now, I got to ask you right off the bat, Vince, how big of a fan are you of this band?
Well, back in the day, huge fan, to the point where we played some of the music then.
Wow.
When I was younger. And you may or may not know of the band that we have called the Shagwells.
Yes.
Who did a couple of their songs, the real commercial ones, Dance to the Music and Want to Take You Higher.
Wow.
So we'll get into all of that. Love them for many, many reasons, of which we'll go into post haste.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Do you want to get right into it, like as far as their Woodstock performance? I went on the Woodstock, the official Woodstock site that we're always telling people, which is www.woodstock.com. And if you go to the 1969 section where it tells about all the bands that played that day and it gives their set list, well, interestingly enough, Sly The Family Stone went on at something like, I think it was day 3 they went on, and they went on like at 3:30 in the morning.
No, I got to stop you there.
Okay.
They're listed on day 3 on the website.
Okay.
But they were on Saturday night or early Sunday morning. This is why they list them as day 3.
Okay.
Technically, they were day 2.
Okay.
As far as the full complement of playing goes.
Yeah.
They were the band on, I think they were right on before The Who. And The Who did, I think, like the entire Tommy Rock opera and all of that stuff. They had a long time. Sly had about 45 minutes at around 3:30 a.m. On the early Sunday morning, which was about 2 hours before we actually hit the site.
Wow. And you know, it's interesting because they went in like you said, in the middle of the night. And from what I was reading, they were just such an energized band in spite of, going on in the middle of the night. And they got like, let's just go down the set list, okay? And we can talk about some of the songs if you want. M Lady, Sing a Simple Song, You Can Make It If You Try, Everyday People, Dance to the Music, Music Lover, I Want to Take You Higher, Love City, Stand. All great songs in their own right, but I'll tell you, right off the bat, people really took notice of this band, not just at Woodstock, but ever since, because it's hard to pin this band down. They're everything from like R&B, soul, funk, rock. They're everything. If you go down that list of songs I just listed, there's a little of that in all these songs,
Absolutely. I have their greatest hits on my iTunes, which is now just called Music.
Yeah.
And just to set up their night performance, back in May, I was reading on their Wikipedia, but something that we all bought at one time was the Stand album, an album called Stand by them, which I believe was their 3rd full album release. Eventually had 6 songs, hits off of that record. And amazing record, full of energy. And when you see the movie, their song, I Want to Take You Higher, which is highlighted, was tons and tons and tons of energy off that stage, and the crowd going absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
What a fun band. We love to play their music. They're fun. People really get out there. They know the hits, which makes it easy when you play one of their songs. People get right out there. Also, for the audience, and according to their Wikipedia page, and according to my knowledge base, they were the first full integrated group as far as not just from a racial mix, blacks and whites.
Yeah.
But also they had 2 women in the band too. Real major breakthrough in the band. It had 3 actual family members.
Yeah.
He was Sylvester Stewart.
Wow.
And the band's first name before Freddie, the brother, was a guitar player, formed another band. They decided to put a band together, the 2 bands together, which were people from both of these bands.
Wow.
Into this one band. So they were originally called Sly and the Stoners.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really pushing the envelope back then. and it went through a couple of different name changes, and eventually they relied on or went to the Family Stone. Sly the Family Stone.
It makes sense because three of the guys I think were brothers, like you said, and Sly and the Stoners. I don't know how many record companies are going to want to put that on their label, but
yeah, really. Well, one was a sister.
Okay.
One was Sister Rose, they call her. She was keyboards and vocals, and they also had Cynthia, whose last name escapes me, playing trumpet, and one of the guys was a saxophone, so they had the trumpet and sax.
Yeah.
Or the kind of the stacks.
Yeah.
The trumpet sax, two players versus the full rounded three players with the trombone.
Yeah.
So when they combined the two bands, Sly was also playing guitar.
Yes.
So he said, "No, you become the guitarist, and I'm going to learn how to play keyboards." So he was a multi-instrumentalist. I don't know how fluent he was on the keyboards, but certainly you can hear keys on the records, and he certainly filled it in, and he had a lot of dash on stage, a lot of flash.
Yeah, see?
Almost like a James Brown type.
Yeah, I was going to say, you couldn't, it made sense that he was a front man, because if you go on the internet and you look at any pictures you can come of Sly and the Family Stone, he's the one you notice, right away. I mean, just the flashiness and everything, like you say. And I did read the fact that he's a multi instrumentalist, but I'll tell you, Vince, the interesting thing in talking about their Woodstock performance is the list of songs we just went down. I got to tell you, my top 3 songs are in this set list, and I will.
Which ones?
Well, I'll let you take a guess, but really, you could probably guess. But the one you mentioned, I Want to Take You Higher.
Sure.
Let's Dance to the Music, and I would say probably my all-time favorite's got to be Everyday People, and it's just for the simple fact those are the 3 songs I've heard the most. But like Everyday People, first of all, I think if you listen to the lyrics and you listen to what the song's about, first of all, it's amazing. We're talking about music that happened 50 years ago, and that one song is still, if you look at what's happening in the world today, it is so relevant. It's about talking about, hey, let's all get along. Let's all live with one another. Great social lyrics, if you will, and they're still fitting 50 years later. And I can't tell you how many movies and how many even TV commercials I've heard that song in over the years.
Oh, sure. And on that album, Stand is about taking a stand, standing up for yourself. So they, at that time, which was late '68 and early '69, they dabbled into politics, let's call it.
Yeah.
A little bit. But they were still fun, uplifting, positive messages, which we really appreciated.
You just made my next point, because I was going to say that in looking at all these songs and just the titles and stuff, like, I Want to Take You Higher, I mean, that's a positive thought. I mean, you could kind of, take that in any way you really want. There's a couple innuendos in there, but I Want to Take You Higher, I think just kind of can mean, hey, let's go to a show, let's have a good time, get up on your feet, even dance to the music. And then another one that really stands out is kind of like, you can make it if you try it. It's like you said, all this stuff is uplifting. It's an uplifting message. I mean, I would much rather hear somebody tell me, hey, you can make it if you give it a shot, if you try, as opposed to, you're never going to accomplish that. You're a loser. You're never going to. Your dreams are never going to come true. It's just, you look at this stuff and it's uplifting. That's what I dig.
Yes, and so much fun. And with a message.
Yeah.
That was the album that started to separate them. When I read about the album sold over 3 million, I had one.
Yeah.
I had one. I played the grooves off of that album. Just great stuff. Just great, real raise the hair on the back of your neck. Real fun stuff. Get people together. I really enjoyed them a lot. Still do. They're one of my go-to playlists when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
It just lifts you,
And we're talking about music from 50 years ago, and it's amazing. Like you said, 50 years later, after this music was created, it can still bring you up. It can still put you in a good mood. And it's interesting when you look at the way the band kind of ended. I mean, again, I went on their Wikipedia like you, and it says they were active from 1966 to I think 1983, and a lot of reason the band kind of stopped was a couple of members, but mainly Sly got really heavily into his cocaine addiction affected him so much that I remember just a few years ago hearing about the fact that he was living on the streets somewhere, homeless and living on drugs, and very, very sad to see what has become of him. So much to the fact that I don't know if you read about this, but 2006 they had a Grammy Awards tribute to Sly and the Family Stone, and I guess they had rehearsals for this for a couple of days, and he was late, and they didn't think he was going to show up, and he showed up at the actual event, but very late, and I think kind of stoned out, and everybody was kind of freaked out by his appearance. I think that's the last public appearance they ever made. But I'll tell you, if that's the last time you ever see Sly and the Family Stone, I mean, they've made their mark on the world with their music,
No question about that. And I saw that performance.
Yeah.
And I was so crestfallen. It was sad to see a fallen hero like that, because he was a musician hero back in the day. And to me, to see him in that condition, friends of mine, we all sat around and go, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
We were all, even when they got in the Hall of Fame, which I think was
93.
When that happened, we had just been watching that, and still he didn't seem like himself. So the rumors were all starting to become
true
fact.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. One thing I wanted to bring up for you and the listeners, which to me is factual. It was this guy who said, Joel Selvin, a music critic, is quoted as saying this: there are two types of black music.
Mm-hmm.
Black music before Sly Stone and black music after Sly Stone.
Yeah.
And I think that is a truism, and here's why. They combined rock with funk, and certainly soul and R&B. Those were the four mixes of their sounds.
Yeah. You can definitely hear that.
It was starting going more funk. So they were really at the leading edge of the funk bands, which in the 70s came out, Average White Band, the Funkadelic, and all those.
Yeah.
That genre was reborn with them leading the pack years before funk became anything big. I used to be an avid watcher of Soul Train.
Oh, yeah.
Every Saturday morning. And then the funk music started to come out on that. Oh, the flashy clothes and everything started back with them.
Oh yeah, it's funny you make note of this, because I would say of all those bands you mentioned, probably the closest that I think ever came to Sly and the Family Stone would be George Clinton and the Funkadelic.
Parliament Funkadelic. Correct.
Yeah. But I mean,
correct. A couple of those guys actually settled in the San Diego area.
Yeah.
And helped to put a band together called Goldfish, who are like an 8 or 9 piece band back then.
Oh wow!
Tons of fun, but in that whole Funkadelic mold.
Yeah.
But going back to Sly and the Family Stone, there was R&B, and soul before then, and Motown and all of that. Even James Brown was funk. Was the grandfather of funk. But as far as bands go, this band was the crossover band.
Oh, I definitely would agree with that. I mean, like you said, James Brown's got to be the originator of the funk, but they really they took it to the next level. Sly and the Family Stone, and I also dare say, because they predate the Jackson 5. But if you look at the Jackson 5 and a lot of their stage moves and stuff, you could see a lot of similarity where you could say, okay, maybe they were influenced by Sly and the Family Stone.
They were, as far as the Jacksons go, they were influenced by not only them, but going back with their stage moves, the Temptations and the Four Tops.
Oh, yeah, wow, yeah.
Which had the choreography going. Now, I had the good pleasure of seeing the Temptations a few times in 68, 69, and 70. Yeah. And I saw them with a guy, David Ruffin, who was one of the originals.
Oh, yeah.
And then after he got out of the band for drugs, they threw him out. Yeah. And they got Dennis Edwards. And then I saw them, I would say maybe about 12 years or so ago, in San Diego.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of meeting the one remaining.
I think that would be Otis Williams.
Otis,
yeah.
right? I met Otis backstage. A friend of mine was a rock critic, so he said, "Let's go backstage. I've got." And I met him, and I was nearly speechless.
Wow.
It was meeting the real, true hero.
Oh, yeah.
From the Motown era. And we met Mary, I forget her name, that night as well. But this band here took all of the elements.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the secrets was to blend the white drummer with the black players.
Wow, yeah.
And also another guy who stands out in that band is Larry Graham, who had a hit way in the future with a beautiful ballad called 1 in a Million.
Oh, wow.
He's the guy that had that really rich, deep, I'm gonna add some bottom. That's him.
Oh, wow.
And his bass playing is one of the first guys to use the fuzz bass. So we know the first guy was Paul McCartney on Think For Yourself, back on Rubber Soul. That was 65. Now here it is, it's 68, 69, and he's including a lot of that fuzz bass. It's on Dance to the Music.
Wow.
It's on Milady. And so Larry Graham was a funk player who played a really smooth style of funk and fit in perfectly with what they were doing. So I think that it was the drummer and the bassist bringing the rest of the band along.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you kind of think at all these big hits and how they really music has lasted all these years, and it's really left an impression. You just kind of stop and think for a minute what this band could have become if he had not fallen to his drug addiction. But again, they left their mark, so it is what it is. Unfortunately, you just kind of think how much farther they could have possibly gone.
Oh, they left a huge mark on the world. You hit that on the head, it's just sad to think of what happened. To see him at the end, I don't want that image in my head.
Yeah, and like you said, they've definitely left their mark to the point that if there's never a new song from this band, what they left behind was just good enough. And it's funny because when you stop and see how he kind of really had this awful drug addiction that really ended his career and everything. It's amazing to see his life kind of in the current state that it is. But you listen to any of his music, and it's just so uplifting. And so maybe when you get feeling kind of down about how he's currently living and stuff, just put on one of his songs, and it'll bring you up.
Absolutely, that's right. This is one of my, as I said earlier on my playlists, one of my go-to driving playlists, because you get behind the wheel, and you just let yourself go. You're enjoying it, and all of a sudden it's a half hour later, and you're where you're supposed to be. I got to also mention that. Interesting enough, you bring up the fact that it was a band that was mixed with white and black members, which was very unique at the time. And I was also reading on the Wikipedia where once Sly got really into his cocaine addiction, he started hiring armed guards to protect him from people that he thought were a threat or were going to try to take his drugs or whatever. And then it got so much to the point where I'm sure you heard of the Black Panther group that was back really big, heavy in the day. So much that some of the members of the Black Panther were demanding that he throw the white members out of the band and only have an all-black group. You would not think that something like that would be such a major point back in the day, but it was. Well, yes. When we all set out as kids to form bands, you're not thinking about any of the downside. You're not thinking about what the industry can do. You're thinking about playing music, having fun, and then whatever comes along with the fun part. You're not thinking of record deals or the dangers of the business, being taken advantage of, the pressures. You got to put out another record. You got to have another hit. You don't think of these things, then you get in it, and then some of them of us are over our heads.
Yeah.
And some of us go with the flow and make it, and it's proof positive. There's Beatles and the Stones. The Beatles got crushed in the end because of themselves and on the outside forces with management and stuff. Now the Stones, who have lasted how many years?
Yeah.
Will be going on 60 in a couple of years.
Oh yeah, the Beatles, though, you bring up, despite all those outside pressures and stuff, they were one of the few bands that was able to have like 27 number one hits, which you and I have talked about before. I mean, quite an accomplishment there. So, if anything else, that's kind of the band that so many want to follow, like, in their lead.
Yeah, well, I laugh because how many people just want one number one?
Yeah.
And then you can live off of that one number one. And for the rest of your life, you can live off the income of if it makes it in a movie and you're getting residuals, things like that.
I mean,
but what a fun band for people who don't know this group. Go find a greatest hits.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube. Go listen to some of their music, and you'll have as much fun listening to it now. Yeah,
one album I seen that was on YouTube. It's kind of like a greatest hits collection. I guess it's called The Essential Sly The Family Stone, and it's got all these songs we're talking about. And I, of course, when you and I had the idea to do this Remembering Woodstock project, and I seen that they played at Woodstock, that was the band I really wanted to talk about. As far as for what we're going to discuss for today's show, because when I looked at the set list, and I know I've heard of this band, but I did not realize how many of their songs that I was familiar with. You know what I mean? Because I'm a bit younger, but I thought, wow, I know a lot of these songs, and like I said, Everyday People, for example, I just love the lyrics and what the song's about. It's uplifting, and like I said, it holds a special place in my heart. Not because I was around back in 1969, but I've heard it so many times in movies and even TV commercials. So it has effect on you when you've heard a song that much, throughout your life.
Yes, and us that grew up with it, it's the soundtrack of your life, but still, you're 20 years behind me. It's still part of the soundtrack of your life.
Yeah, amazing. And it's amazing that music like this, I'm like a generation or so before, but it can still have as much of a positive effect on me as it did you, who was actually there at the time,
That's right. Now think of that Saturday.
Yeah.
These acts were all on in one Saturday, and of course many others.
Oh yeah.
But in the afternoon, Santana.
Yeah.
And then in the evening, Creedence, Sly and the Family Stone, The Who, ending with Jefferson Airplane. Come on, right there. I mean, if you even spent the $6 on a ticket, which we didn't, for any given day, you got your money's worth. You got memories of a lifetime. You saw the best of the best at the time, who was not the Beatles or the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. And it's amazing too, because all those bands you just listed that played Woodstock, I mean, they were so vastly different. And I dare say what really made Sly the Family Stone probably stand out that day. Probably they were among of all those great bands, but they were probably the only funk band to play the event. Like you said, there's everybody from 10 Years After and Joe Cocker. They were all the way from England, but a lot of the American bands that played were from that San Francisco area,
That's right. According to what I read, Vallejo, which is in that general vicinity. Now, here's a little fact that I know that we've read on that Wikipedia site, but that we're going to drop on the audience. The one song that made it into the main film, not any of the outtakes, is "I Want to Take You Higher."
Wow.
Now, that was the third to the last song in their set list.
Yes.
It wasn't even the end. The last song was "Stand." But if you think of that one performance, and you heard that crowd go I want to take you higher, and they're screaming higher.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there, and that performance was known as one of the greatest performances that they have ever done in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And it was a standout in the movie, which we saw the movie after it was new, when it was new in the theater, and it was electrifying then. And we turned to each other and go, damn, what we missed.
Yeah, I want to take you. Yeah, I want to take you higher. You could almost take it a number of ways. Like you could take it like it's a great rock anthem. As you can imagine, here one of your performances, Vince. With Mick Adams and the Stones, and you play a powerful song like that, and everybody gets up on their feet, they're clapping and doing the thing, and rocking out to the tune. I want to take you higher. People might take it like in a sexual way. People could say, they want us to get high with them, whatever the case may be, or get up on your feet and let's dance. You could take it however you want to, and that's the beautiful thing about this music,
Yes. Now here is the fact that I was leading up to.
Uh-huh.
This was a B-side.
Yeah.
I Want to Take You Higher too. I think the song Stand, if I'm not mistaken. So it was on a B-side, but after the movie, in 1970, they re-released it. After they performed, it became a big thing. In 1970, they re-released it as an A-side, and it went to number one.
And you know what I love about that story? See, that is the talking about supply and demand. That is the people. That is the fans kind of talking, and they decide what becomes a hit. They didn't, maybe when the record company didn't initially think I Want to Take You Higher was much of a hit or much of a song, but you know what? That's the song. It was a B-side, as you say. That's the song people reacted very much like when Kiss originally released their album Destroyer. They released the single as Detroit Rock City, and then the big power ballad that everybody loves all these years later, Beth. That's the song that became the hit. So I love it that the audience got to pick. No, that's the song we want. And
well, that's right. It's all by sales.
Yeah.
Now the way that all works, for anybody who doesn't know, the way it works is they get into a recording studio. They give the demos. They start to record the demos into the actual full way the song was going to get recorded and mixed, and eventually an A&R guy, artist and recording guy, listens to the songs and decides, you know what, we're going to put that one out as a single. Now you may get a tussle from people in the band, but sometimes it goes and sometimes it doesn't, and that's based on record sales. So back in the day, we had something called 45s. What's a 45? RPM, revolutions per minute. So these small singles that had holes in the middle that you had to center on a Victrola.
Yeah, they used to have to get an adapter for the turntable so you could play it on there. Yeah, I remember that.
And even then I would break them and never get them right. Lucky to get them right. So that's how it basically works. It gets picked, and then it either goes up the charts because of sales or not. That's what's hot and what's not. Not because, we like it, or we call into a radio station that might, hey, play this song. That'll probably start pushing it up the charts a little bit, but mostly it's just because of somebody's ear for recognizing a good hook. And that's a hit.
And that's got to be hard sometimes to do because, like the A&R guy, while he may not think I want to take you higher, maybe it doesn't just touch him and how it touches everybody else. He kind of going more based on what he likes. So that could be the case. But we'll end on this positive note. I was also reading in regards to Everyday People. That was the band's first number one hit they had in 1968, and so that was really their first bite at the apple as far as having any kind of real success. And I would also like to end on this, Vince. Sly the Family Stone, because we're so familiar with all these songs 50 years later. I would be willing to bet they're one of the bands that played Woodstock probably gets their music streamed the most, as far as people downloading it and stuff. But I don't know. And the other thing I want to kind of end on, I was reading that in 2010 that Sly and the Family Stone, they were voted number 43 in Rolling Stone's 100 artists of all time, which is kind of interesting. They're almost they're more than halfway there as far as people really digging this band.
That's right. And let's end with this: different strokes for different folks.
There you go. There you go.
They coined that in that song, "Everyday People,"
Wow.
which became a saying. That song was about race.
Uh-huh.
So, hey, live and let live. Different strokes for different folks. Let people be different.
Yeah.
It's a very advanced message.
Yeah. I hear.
And it still resonates today, as we know.
I hear you.
But
And the final.
God bless them.
Yeah.
They were a great band.
I hear you. And the final word on that is different strokes. Well, probably not having really too much to do with Sly. That was I remember a TV show that had these two black brothers being raised by this white millionaire back in the 80s. But so there's all kinds of different references just to this one song, in pop culture. Yeah.
Yeah. What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, there you go. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
I watched it too.
Yeah. Well, Vince, Lupo, it's been great talking to you, and I want to wish you a happy anniversary next week, and enjoy your if you go anywhere, enjoy your celebration.
Thank you.
And tell your wife we said the same. But thanks for doing this, and we'll get back together when you return. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.